Republican Congressman Joe Barton of Texas joining us now from Dallas. Congressman, isn't it great when you find one person who knows that they're right, no matter how old they are, no matter where they're from, that they hold their ground, they stand up to the so-called powerful people in the world, and they get what they protest. I mean, that's why Leona's an inspiration.
Well, she was right in 1989, and the people that are opposed to the health care bill that the president signed last week are right in 2010. There is some good in the bill, but overall it is a very bad bill, and that's why over 60% of the American public oppose it, and that's why eventually we'll repeal or reform it.
Now, I'm sure that when that bill was originally passed back in 1989, there were a lot of people that took bows. Rostenkowski, maybe even President Reagan took a victory lap for it. We're seeing that this week. Is it conceivable that the Tea Party protests will lead to the kind of overturning of this bill that we saw with a catastrophic bill back in '89?
Well, I was in Congress in '89. I voted against the bill. I was one of the 129 members in the House that voted no. But the opposition to it when the bill was before the Congress wasn't nearly as intense as the opposition has been against this bill. And to their credit, the Democratic leadership in the House, I believe Tom Foley was Speaker of the House, and I think Jim Wright was Majority Leader. When it became obvious that the senior citizens didn't like the benefits, they had the guts to put the repeal back up on the floor. I think we passed the repeal by voice vote.
Incredible. Now, as you said, the protests back then were not as strong as the protests now.
No.
We still have, you look at the polls, the latest polls that came out clearly show that the majority of people are at best ambivalent. Most of the people that are polled nowadays suggest that they are still against the poll. Their numbers have not changed at all. So shouldn't it be more likely that this bill will be overturned than the bill back in 1989?
Well, I think it is. I think it is likely, but I do want to say there is a difference. Nancy Pelosi and Harry Reid and President Obama don't appear to want to listen to the American people, and to their credit, back in '89, the new President George Bush, and then the Democratic leadership, Mr. Foley and Mr. Wright, Jim Wright, they did listen, and even Claude Pepper, bless his heart, he listened. So today, Pelosi has put all of her muscle into passing the bill. The President has put all of his political muscle into convincing wavering Democrats in the House and the Senate to vote for it. So they have a leadership problem now that the Democratic Party didn't have back in 1989.
How long did it take from the time that Ronald Reagan signed that bill to the time that it was overturned?
It was approximately a year. I think perhaps even a little bit less than a year.
A little bit less than a year. And were the
yeah.
protests that Leona Kosian was a part of, were they, did you find them multiplied all over the country, or was it just focused in certain districts?
No, it was everywhere, and it was growing, but it was primarily among the senior citizens. Today, the opposition is, old, young, universal, and as the impact of this bill hits, you've already seen some of the major corporations. They have to restate their earnings and and acknowledge any material impact on their bottom line. You're going to see an avalanche of that in the coming months. You're probably going to see quite a bit of just civil disobedience, not in a violent sense, but in a sense that all these people that are supposed to mandatorily sign up, they're just not going to do it. They're just going to say, make me pay the penalty, but I'm not going to do it.
Congressman, we have to wrap it up, but it is your belief, having been there for the repeal of catastrophic health in '89, that there is going to be the same kind of fervor that led to the overhaul of that bill in '89 now taking place right now, and we will see a repeal of this health care bill?
I don't know that we'll see an entire complete repeal. There are some good things in it, coverage for pre-existing conditions, the follow-on biologics bill, which Congressman Eshoo of California and myself put in the bill. There's some good things, but most of the bill is bad, and most of the population opposes most parts of this bill, and it's much more intense in 2010 than it was in 1989, much more.
Congressman Joe Barton, a Republican from Texas, thank you for being here. Appreciate it, Congressman.